हमने 11 क्वेश्चंस डिस्कस किए हैं। ये सभी इजी कैटेगरी में आता है अकॉर्डिंग टू माय एनालिसिस। नाउ लेट अस डिस्कस few models, few problems which are of moderate level. Okay, देखिए अगला क्वेश्चन। The radius of gyration of a uniform rod of length L about an axis passing through a point L by 4 away from the center of the rod and perpendicular to it is, मतलब सिस्टम ऑफ पार्टिकल्स में मोमेंट ऑफ इनर्शिया से है ये मॉडल। पहले हम एक मॉडल ऑलरेडी डिस्कस किया था सेंटर ऑफ मास से, अभी नो दिस इज फ्रॉम मोमेंट ऑफ इनर्शिया। रोटेशनल डायनेमिक्स एक मतलब सिस्टम ऑफ पार्टिकल्स जो चैप्टर है बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चैप्टर है, बोथ इन व्यू ऑफ IIT जी मेंस एंड एडवांस लेवल हैविंग वेरी गुड वेटेज। उसमें मेंस लेवल में सेंटर ऑफ मास में या मोमेंट ऑफ इनर्शिया में क्वेश्चन आएगा तो आसानी से आप बना सकते हैं। खाली कभी रोटेशनल डायनेमिक्स का पार्ट से आएगा, थोड़ा हो सकता है मॉडरेट टू टफ लेवल में प्रॉब्लम आएगा। एक्चुअली ये मोमेंट ऑफ इनर्शिया बेस्ड क्वेश्चन है, कायदे से देखा जाए तो ये भी आसान क्वेश्चन है। फिर भी थोड़ा डायरेक्टली मोमेंट ऑफ इनर्शिया ना देके रेडियस ऑफ गायरेशन के बारे में पूछा, तो इसलिए मैंने इसको मॉडरेट स्टैंडर्ड में देखा था। फिर भी कितना इजी है आप जरा देखिए। देयर इज ए यूनिफॉर्म रॉड ऑफ लेंथ L. Now we have to find out the radius of gyration of this rod about an axis passing through a point L by 4 from the center of the rod, and the axis is perpendicular to the rod. So this is the axis, say AA. So to find the radius of gyration, first what we do, we find the moment of inertia about the given axis. Let the moment of inertia be I. Make it equal to mass of the rigid body into k square. Simply find the k value, that itself is the radius of gyration. Here the axis we named it as AA, so IAA. So here the only thing is we have to find the moment of inertia of the rod about this axis, specified axis. हमारा काम बन गया है। वो कैसे बनाएंगे देखिए। About the center axis perpendicular to the rod, the moment of inertia formula for a uniform rod we know it is ml square by 12. We can say it is IZZ, centroidal axis. But we want the moment of inertia about AA. So we have to apply parallel axis theorem. हमको parallel axis theorem का इस्तेमाल करना पड़े। वो कैसे लिखते हैं? The moment of inertia about any axis IAA is equal to sum of the moment of inertia about an axis passing through the center of the mass and parallel to the given axis, that is ml square by 12, plus mass of the rigid body into square of the distance between the two axes, say d. So हमको अभी IAA इससे ऐसा निकालेंगे। IAA is equal to IZZ plus mass of the rod into distance square. So this is IAA. तो ये IAA MK से स्क्वायर के साथ इक्वल करेंगे और K फाइंड आउट करेंगे तो हमारा क्वेश्चन बन गया। देखिए IZZ is ml square by 12 plus mass m into this distance is L by 4 whole square is equal to mk square. So here take out m common, here also m, you can cancel out m. So left over is L square by 12 plus this is L square by 16 is equal to k square. So here L square common, 1 by 12 plus 1 by 16 is equal to k square. So you can write here 48, 3 plus 4, 7 L square is equal to k square. So what is the radius of required radius of gyration about the axis AA? It is root over 7 by 48 times L. So this is our answer. अगला क्वेश्चन देखिए। It is from single slit diffraction. Visible light of wavelength 6000 into 10 to the power of -8 centimeter falls normally on a single slit and produces a diffraction pattern. It is found that the second diffraction minimum is at 60 degrees from the central maximum. If the first minimum is produced at angle theta 1, the angle theta 1 is close to. So this is from view optics diffraction. So first of all, let us recall the pattern of the single slit diffraction. Single slit, and the diffraction pattern looks something like this. In diffraction, the successive maxima intensity keep on decreasing. Secondary maxima intensity keep on decreasing. Whereas in YDSC, all these maximas have the same intensity. So that is the difference between the YDSC and single slit diffraction. Okay, and suppose this is the central maxima, then this is the first dark, this is the first bright, this is the second dark. Similarly on the downside, first dark, second dark. It is given that it is found that the second diffraction minima is at 60 degrees. So from here the second diffraction minima is at 60 degrees. So in that case we have to find what is the angle of the first diffraction minima. Let us say it is theta 1. We know for nth minima, we write the formula A sin theta n, that is the path difference, is equal to n times lambda, integral multiple of lambda. So this is for minima. In case of YDSC, exactly opposite. This integral multiple of lambda comes for the maxima. So in diffraction, the same formula is for minima. So now it is given that A sin second minima. So let us say theta 2. It is n value 2 lambda. And suppose the first minima is at an angle theta 1, then you can write A sin theta 1 is equal to 1 lambda. Divide 1 with the other. You will get sin theta 2 by sin theta 1 is equal to 2 lambda by 1 lambda, that is 2. So sin theta 1 is equal to sin theta 2 by 2. So what is theta 2? It is given as 60 degrees. So this is sin 60 by 2. That is sin 60 value is root 3 by 2 by 2. So it is root 3 by 4. यहां तक कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, ठीक है, बन गया. अब प्रॉब्लम यहां यह आएगी, तो इसका करस्पॉन्डिंग थीटा 1 वैल्यू क्या आएगा. मान लो अगर 0 है या 30 है या 45 है 60 है 90 है, इस टाइप की वैल्यूज तो फ्रॉम टेबल हमको याद रहता है, बट बगैर टेबल और बगैर कैलकुलेटर का इसका करस्पॉन्डिंग एंगल निकालना थोड़ा मुश्किल है. इसलिए इस टाइप का क्वेश्चन, दो इट इज इजी क्वेश्चन, आई हैव गिवन इट एज अ मॉडरेट स्टैंडर्ड. कोई ज्यादा कॉन्सेप्चुअल अंडरस्टैंडिंग डेप्थ की जरूरत है, इसलिए इज नॉट डिफिकल्ट, बट कैलकुलेशन पार्ट में थोड़ा टाइम टेकिंग है, अटक जाएंगे. तो फिर कैसे बनाएंगे ऐसे क्वेश्चन को. या रूट 3 by 4 या रूट 3 by 2, कोई भी एक वैल्यू आप पहले निकालना पड़ेगा. चलेगा 1.732 by 4. तो इसका क्या आएगा 0.433 करीब करीब इतना आएगा. सो साइन थीटा 1 इक्वल 0.433. तो 0.433 का करस्पॉन्डिंग थीटा 1 क्या हो सकता है. आप पहले ये लिखिए, साइन 0 का वैल्यू है 0, साइन 30 का वैल्यू है 0.5, साइन 45 का वैल्यू है 1/√2, उसका जनरली हमको याद रहता है 0.707. अभी इसका वैल्यू क्या है 0.433, मतलब 0.5 से कम है. इसका मतलब 30 एंगल भी थीटा अभी 30 से कम होगा. सो हमारा थीटा 1 जो है लेस देन 30 होगा. अब हमको ऑप्शंस देखना पड़ेगा. लेस देन 30 अगर कोई एक ही एंगल दिया है तो डायरेक्टली हम मार्क कर सकते हैं आंसर, लेकिन यहाँ ऑप्शंस में लेस देन 30 में 20, 25 दो दिया है. फिर थोड़ा कैलकुलेशन और बढ़ जाएगा. इसको इस प्रॉब्लम को कैसे बनाएंगे, थोड़ा एक्स्ट्रापोलेशन करना पड़ेगा, वो आपके ऊपर छोड़ देता हूँ. न्यूमेरिकल मेथड्स में आप थोड़ा किए होंगे मैथमेटिक्स में, उसका एक्स्ट्रापोलेशन करके मतलब 30, 45 और 0 to 30 रेंजेस देख के यहाँ पे इसका वैल्यू और एक्स डिस्टेंस है तो एक्स फाइंड आउट करके इसका करस्पॉन्डिंग एंगल रफली निकालेंगे. तो यहाँ पे थीटा 1 इज इक्वल टू करीब करीब 25 डिग्रीज बनता है. सो दिस इज द करेक्ट आंसर. ओके, अगला क्वेश्चन देखिए मॉडरेट स्टैंडर्ड का. ए एलसीआर सर्क्यूट बिहेव्स लाइक ए डैम्प्ड हार्मोनिक ऑसिलेटर. कंपेयरिंग इट विथ ए फिजिकल स्प्रिंग मास डैम्प्ड ऑसिलेटर having damping constant D, the correct equivalence would be. आपने एसी सर्क्यूट्स में एलसीआर सर्क्यूट्स पढ़ने के बाद, एलसी ऑसिलेशन पढ़ने के बाद ये पढ़ा होगा कि एक इलेक्ट्रिकल एलसीआर ऑसिलेटर हाउ इट इज कंपेयर्ड विद ए मैकेनिकल ऑसिलेटर, उसमें रेस्पेक्टिव क्या क्या कंपोनेंट्स किसके साथ कंपेयर किया जाता है. फॉर एग्जांपल इलेक्ट्रिकल इनर्शिया, दैट इंडक्टेंस एल जो है, मैकेनिक्स में इनर्शिया क्या है, करस्पॉन्डिंग कंपोनेंट, मास इज द मेजर ऑफ इनर्शिया इन मैकेनिक्स. मतलब इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, इलेक्ट्रिकल सर्क्यूट्स में इंडक्टेंस जो ये काम करता है, जो मैकेनिक्स में मास और रोटेशन डायनेमिक्स से में आई मोमेंट ऑफ इनर्शिया करता है. तो उस कंपैरिजन का बेसिस में ये क्वेश्चन है. ये थोड़ा सा कॉन्सेप्चुअल अंडरस्टैंडिंग थोड़ा अच्छे से होना चाहिए, इसलिए इसको मैं मॉडरेट में रखा, बल्कि इसमें कोई कैलकुलेशंस नहीं है. अगर आपको मालूम होगा कॉन्सेप्ट तो डायरेक्टली आप इसको आंसर मार्क कर सकते हैं. लेट अस सी दिस. फॉर अ डैम्प्ड ऑसिलेटर, डैम्प्ड मैकेनिकल ऑसिलेटर, we write the F net force is equal to mass into acceleration. तो डैम्प्ड मैकेनिकल ऑसिलेटर में क्या होता है, एक रेस्टोरिंग फोर्स होती है लाइक ए स्प्रिंग और फोर्स कांस्टेंट, और एक डैम्पिंग फोर्स ऑलवेज एक्टिंग ऑपोजिट टू वेलोसिटी एंड प्रोपोर्शनल टू द वेलोसिटी. तो हियर एक डैम्पिंग फोर्स और एक रेस्टोरिंग फोर्स दोनों एक्ट करते रहते हैं. तो that gives the net acceleration. So this restoring force generally is a spring force kind of. So you can write it as minus of some spring constant times the displacement kx. Whereas this damping force is proportional to velocity of the system, and the damping constant is given as d. So it is minus dv is equal to mass into acceleration. Now you rearrange the terms, you will get like this. A is equal MA plus BV plus kx is equal to 0. That means acceleration you can write it as m d square x by dt square plus b dx by dt. V velocity is dx by dt. Acceleration is d square x by dt square, and the spring force or restoring force is kx is equal to 0. So this is the general equation of a mechanical damper. Whereas in electricity, the electrical damper equation means where there is an inductor, there is a resistor, and there is a capacitor applied to an alternating source. We write the equation like this: L di by dt plus Ri plus Q by C is equal to 0. What are the respective components? This is the voltage drop across the inductor. This is the voltage drop across the resistor, ohmic drop, and this is the voltage drop across the capacitor. L dA by dt plus Ri plus Q by C is equal to 0. Now in place of I, we can write dq by dt. So now the above equation takes the form L d square q by dt square plus R dq by dt plus q by C equal to 0. Now compare the respective terms. You will get the comparison. Here L resembles mass. Then R resembles the damping constant D. And 1 by C resembles the spring constant or force constant K. So this is the correct option. In fact, that itself is directly given as the option. L is mass, C is 1 by K, and R is B. So in fact here it is given as C resembles 1 by K. Okay. अगला क्वेश्चन देखिए. The time period of revolution of electron in its ground state orbit in a hydrogen atom is 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 16 seconds. The frequency of revolution of the electron in its first excited state in seconds is. This question is from modern physics, atoms lesson, atomic physics. Again, modern physics also is a very good part of physics where from definitely you can solve the questions. So that is why all of the students should make it a practice to definitely practice the questions from the entire modern physics, comprising of atoms, nuclei, dual nature, semiconductors, logic gates, communication. also add electromagnetic waves. It's a very good potential part of physics where from definitely you can get significant marks if you properly prepare. So अभी ये क्वेश्चन देखते हैं. ये क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करने के लिए रेडियस एंड वेलोसिटी ऑफ एन इलेक्ट्रॉन इन nth ऑर्बिट, इसका फॉर्मूला अगर हमको याद आएगा तो ये क्वेश्चन बन जाएगा. एज यू नो द रेडियस ऑफ nth orbit is given by 0.53 m square by z in angstrom terms. That means radius in nth orbit is proportional to m square by z, whereas velocity in nth orbit is given by c by 137 z by n. That means it is proportional to z by n. Now we have to find out the relation between time period and the frequency. In one state time period is given, in another state we have to find the frequency. So how you get the time period in nth orbit? It is 2 pi Rn, that is the perimeter that it has to cover, the electron in the orbit, divided by velocity in that orbit. That will give you the time. Distance by speed. That means time period in nth orbit is proportional to Rn by Vn. So let us substitute these values. That means time period in nth orbit is proportional to Rn means n square by z by Vn means z by n. So overall you will get time period in nth orbit is proportional to n cube by z square. We also know that frequency and time period are inversely related. T is proportional to 1 by frequency, 1 by f. So now we can write here T1 by T2 is equal to frequency 2 by frequency 1. So by using this relation, you can write it here as T1 means n1 cube by z square by T2 means n2 cube by z square. That means z square by n2 cube. Here you see I have written both the places in place of z1 and z2 only z, because it is given that it is a hydrogen atom, z is only 1. There is no change, only the orbit changes. First orbit, second orbit, ground state, first excited state, like that. So from this you will get frequency 2 by frequency 1 is equal to n1 cube by n2 cube. n1 is the ground state, so n1 value 1. n2 is the first excited state, so its value is 2. So 1 by 2 whole cube, that is 1 by 8. So we have to find the frequency in the second orbit, that is first excited state. F2 is equal to 1 by 8 times F1, that is 1 by 8 times F1 place you can write 1 by T1. Why? Because in the question T1 is given, means time period in the ground state is given. So its value is 1 by 8 into 1 by, the time period is given as 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 16 seconds. 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 16 seconds. This, when you simplify this, you will get something like 7.8 into 10 to the power of 14 Hz or cycles per second. So this is the correct answer. अगला क्वेश्चन देखिए. It is from rotational dynamics. As shown in the figure, a bob of mass m is tied by a massless string whose other end portion is wound on a flywheel or disc of radius r and mass m. When released from rest, the bob starts falling vertically. When it has covered a distance of h, the angular speed of the wheel will be. So this problem can be solved by using the law of conservation of energy. Actually, it is given that a wheel which is in the form of a disc of mass m and radius r is wound with a string and a mass m is attached. It is released from rest the bar starts falling. Of course, the wheel also moves. There is no slipping. And the mass falls through a distance h. At that point of time, the mass will be moving down. And at the same time, the wheel also keep on rotating. So let the wheel be rotating with an angular velocity omega, and the linear velocity at that point is v. And with the no slipping condition at this contact, so we can write one relation, v is equal to r omega. R omega is equal to v by r. Now we have to find out what is the velocity in this situation when the mass falls through a distance h, covers a distance h. So simply let us write the law of conservation of energy. When the mass is kept here, there is no potential energy if you consider this as the reference. When it comes down up to this point, that is drops by a height h, it loses some gravitational potential energy given by mgh. The same gravitational potential energy which is lost by the mass is getting converted into kinetic energy of the moving objects. What is the kinetic energy? At that point of time, this mass m is moving with the velocity v. So there is a translatory kinetic energy given by the formula half mv square. And also, the disk is moving, rotating with a angular velocity omega. So here, the rotational part of kinetic energy also we have to consider. That is given by half moment of inertia of the disk into omega square, half I omega square. That means loss of gravitational potential energy here is equal to gain in kinetic energy. Again, loss of potential energy gravitational here is mgh. Gain in potential kinetic energy is in two parts. Kinetic energy gained in translation for the mass, kinetic energy gained in rotation for the disk. So for the mass, the gain in kinetic energy is half mv square. And for the disk, the kinetic energy of rotation is half I omega square. Now what we have to find? We have to find the angular speed. So we have to find the omega. So let us convert this v into omega. This is equal to half m r square omega square, because v is equal to r omega, plus half I. This is a disk. The disk is rotating about the natural axis. So for a disk about the natural axis, the moment of inertia is half mr square. Half mr square into omega square. So now you can cancel this m through. Take m common and cancel it. So left over gh is equal to half r square omega square, r square by 2 omega square, plus 1 by 4 r square, that is r square by 4 omega square. So you will get here omega square common, r square by 2 plus r square by 4, that is 3r square by 4. So we have to find the omega here. So omega is equal to, omega square is equal to 4gh by 3r square. This is omega square. So from this, you will get omega is equal to square root of this one. That is 1 by r root over 4gh by 3. So this is your correct answer. 1 by r square root of 4gh by 3. Okay. Look at the next question. Again, moderate level. This is from ray optics, optical instruments. If we need a magnification of 375 from a compound microscope of tube length 150 mm and an objective of focal length 5 mm, the focal length of the eyepiece should be close to. So here the maximum magnification needed is given as 375. That means in which setting we get the maximum magnification for a compound microscope, we should recall. The compound microscope will be adjusted for two positions. One position is finely image at infinity. Another position is finely image at D. What is that D? Least distance of distinct vision, 25 centimeters. So here we can get the maximum magnification only for the position of final image at D. So the formula for the magnification for final image at D is given by, I am writing the magnitude formula, V objective by U objective into 1 plus D by FE. This is the objective lens contribution and this part is the contribution of the eyepiece. Okay, but here tube length is given. So that is an indirect suggestion that we have to go for one small approximation, that the object is kept near the focus of the objective and the intermediate image which acts as an object for the eyepiece falls close to the eyepiece. That means the length of the compound microscope itself becomes the image distance, intermediate image distance for the objective lens. Okay, that means, so suppose this is the objective, this is the eyepiece, this is the focus of objective. So object is almost kept close to the focus, so that object distance for the objective is nothing but U objective, and the image distance for the objective lens is almost the length of the tube, LD. That means the intermediate image is falling close to the eyepiece. Why we have to take this approximation? Because in this problem, length of the tube is given apart from any other data. Okay. So now this formula takes the form MD is equal to, in place of V objective, we can write the length of the tube by U objective is nothing but the focal length of the objective lens into 1 plus D by FE. Now let us make this substitution of the things. The maximum magnification required is 375. Length of the tube is given as 150 mm by focal length of the objective lens is given as 5. 1 plus D is 25 by FE. So this is very simple to solve. 30 and 375 by 30 is equal to 1 plus 25 by FE. 25 by FE is equal to 375 by 30 minus 1, that is 345 by 30. So from this you will get FE is equal to 25 into 30 by 345, which gives you something like 2.17 centimeters. Here you see this 150 is mm, this 5 is also mm. So mm and mm gets cancelled. So here no units are left over. Whereas D value we have taken as 25 centimeters. So whatever answer you are getting, it is in centimeters, 2.17 centimeters, or otherwise 21.7 mm. The closest option given is 22 mm. So this is your correct answer.